An integrative model working memory. This is the third subtopic of models of memory. The first two I discussed in the black or white pop-up you might be able to see on the upper part of your screen. That will lead you to that video where I discussed the first two models or the first two subtopics. I highly recommend you to watch that video first because I'm going to be using terms in this video which are kind of related to that to the video I just recommended. So first watch that video and then come to this video. That video is less than which I just recommended. That video is less than 6 minutes long, so it wouldn't be a kind of hard video to watch. Now let's see an integrative model working memory. In this video, we're going to be completing this topic of models of memory. The concept of STM propounded by Atkinson and Shiffrin was very narrow. They considered STM only as a short-term memory storehouse. So they only considered Atkinson and Shiffrin only considered this as a short-term memory storehouse. But later studies they disapproved this. So what does later studies suggest is that STM is dynamic in nature. It just is not it is not just short term memory storehouse. It is dynamic in nature. It doesn't work just as a storehouse of information, but it also is responsible for a manipulation of incoming information for the completion of a cognitive task. So it is not. So according to the later studies, STM is not, it is dynamic in nature. It is not just a storehouse of information. It is responsible for manipulation of incoming information for the completion of a cognitive task. In 1974, Badley and H, after incorporating the idea of level of processing (LOP), proposed. Now you might be seeing these terms like STM or levels of processing. By the way, level of processing is a model, is a special model. This is the second subtopic in this in this whole topic of models of memory. So these are the terms I discussed in the last video. That is the reason why it is important for you to watch that video first, which I just recommend in the start of this video. Proposed a new model of STM termed as working memory. Working memory means this model, this which we are talking about in this video, an integrative model working memory. So in 1974, Badley and H, after incorporating the idea of the level of processing (LOP), proposed a new model for STM working memory. This working memory, thus working memory can be defined as limited capacity. Now remember, now I'm not going to highlight this part. This is the most important part. Working memory can be defined as, this highlighted part is the definition, limited capacity system for temporary storage and manipulation of information for complex tasks such as comprehension, learning and reasoning. So what is working memory? It is a limited capacity system for temporary storage and manipulation of information for complex tasks such as comprehension, learning and reasoning. Now this Badley's model of working memory WM is it consists of four components: central executive, phonological loop, the visual spatial sketchpad, the episodic buffer. Now what is central executive? As the name suggests, now here the word you can remember, the executive. As the name suggests, it works as an executive in our working memory. So what does this component do is that it works as a executive in our working memory. It coordinates and regulates cognitive operation between subordinate systems, which are this phonological loop, visuospatial and episodic buffer. So it coordinates and regulates cognitive operation. So what does this component do? It coordinates and regulates cognitive operation between these systems, these subordinate systems, which is phonological loop, visuospatial and episodic buffer. It decides which of the memory will become part of long-term memory, which is also called LTM, just like STM, and which will fade away. So this component is responsible for deciding which of the memory will become part of long-term memory and which will fade away. Phonological loop. This is the second component. Phonological loop is responsible for storing verbal and auditory information. The information stored in the phonological loop will decay within 2 seconds unless it is not rehearsed. So in the first point, this is important, verbal and auditory information. What does phonological loop do? It stores verbal and auditory information. And the information stored in phonological loop will decay within 2 seconds unless it is not rehearsed. It consists of two components. So phonological loop consists of two components, which is phonological store and articulatory rehearsal process. This is the first one, phonological store, and this is the second one, which stores information for a few seconds. So what does phonological store do? It stores information for a few seconds. And what does articulatory rehearsal process do? It is responsible for rehearsing the information. It is responsible for rehearsing the information in order to keep the information stored in phonological store from decaying. So, so this articulatory rehearsal process, it keeps on rehearsing the information in order to keep that information stored in phonological store, like not letting it fade away from the phonological store, like not keeping it away from decaying. rehearsing the information in order to keep the information stored in phonological store from decaying. Remember a phone. Now this is a example you can read by yourself. Remember a phone number you have been just told by your friend involves the phonological loop. The visual spatial sketchpad. The visual spatial sketchpad keeps visual and spatial information stored. Visual and spatial, by name you already might have understood that visual and spatial information here, just like in phonological it was verbal and auditory, here it is visual and spatial information stored in visual spatial sketchpad. Now this is an example. The mental picture that comes up in your mind while listening to a story or solving a puzzle involves using your visual spatial sketchpad. Now there's not much to explain here, but this example kind of explains it all. The episodic buffer. The episodic buffer is responsible for combining information from the phonological loop, visuospatial and long-term memory (LTM) for generating a unitary episodic representation of information. Now, the easier word for unitary is single unit. It's kind of hard to write like this, but yes, single unit. I'm sorry for the handwriting. A single unit. The episodic buffer is responsible for combining information from the phonological loop, visuospatial, and long-term memory. So it combines information. So this component of episodic buffer, it combines information from phonological loop, visuospatial, and long-term memory (LTM), and it generates a single unit of episodic representation of information. Thus, this component helps us in making sense of the received information. So this is kind of responsible for making sense of the received information. Now that is it for this video. This was this whole topic of integrative model working memory. So we saw what exactly the model is. We saw the introduction, then we saw the components of it. Now I'll give you some time to take the screenshot. And I guess that is it for this video. I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. Until then, please subscribe to the channel, like the video as well, and on the bell icon as well to stay notified when I drop a new video. So tomorrow I'll continue. We'll continue this. I mean, not continue this topic. This topic already ended in this video. We'll start a new topic from tomorrow in the next video. Until then, if you want to leave a like, you can leave a like.